This tutorial is the first in a series covering collection negotiation techniques. In this tutorial, we're going to cover some of the basics, an overview look at negotiating in a business situation. We'll be going into a lot more detail on each of these topics in coming tutorials, but this is a great way to start. Now, a lot of people are intimidated by the thought of going into a negotiation with the customer, and they feel that they're not well prepared, and it's a kind of an intimidating thing to do. You shouldn't be afraid to negotiate, because think of it this way: you negotiate every day. Anybody who has teenage kids knows that there's negotiations that go on within your own family. You negotiate with your friends. Where should we go? What should we see in the movies? All of these things. You negotiate with your boss about deadlines and assignments, all of these types of things. And you negotiate with business colleagues and customers. So we do this every day. We should not be intimidated. The key is to do it in a thoughtful and prepared way. So think about a recent negotiation that you did. It could be a personal negotiation or a business one, and it was successful. So why do you think it was successful? What were the elements there that made it a good negotiation experience? Then turn the table and say, what about a recent negotiation in which, it just wasn't successful? It did not end well. We did not reach an agreement. Maybe there was ill feelings between the parties. Why did that happen? Why was it not successful? So you think about those things, and it kind of gives you an idea of the things that work and maybe some of the things that you should improve upon. So what is a business negotiation? Well, there's an official definition of it. Parties coming from a different perspective. There's issues to be resolved. You're bargaining for an outcome that you think is going to be best for your company. But the best negotiation is one where the outcome, the end result, serves the interest of both parties, that there's mutual interest there. Negotiation isn't something that is like a math project. It's an art. It's an art that involves two parties with a disagreement to agree and settle some sort of a conflict, and there's certain things that you can employ to make that happen. Both parties have to kind of reach the table with the same core principles on how do you negotiate. You can't have one party that's a yeller and a screamer and will only take what they want, that is not willing to compromise. For example, both parties should come to the negotiation thinking, there's a way out of this. Let's figure out what it is. You have to have a strategy to reach an agreeable result. It just doesn't happen automatically. It just never will. You have to have some predetermined thought process you've gone through for a strategy of how am I going to approach this issue. You have to focus just on the issues at hand. You have to be able to bring the conversation back to the core issues, not let it get on to things that are irrelevant and just waste time, and maybe bring up issues that have no reason to be discussed in that negotiation. And importantly, for any credit professional, you're trying, if it's at all possible, to maintain an ongoing business relationship with the other party. You don't want to walk away and lose good business for your company when it wasn't necessary. So there's some key assumptions when you have a successful negotiation. First of all, both sides want to reach an agreement. If one side just is there and there's no way they're going to agree, that's not a negotiation. Both sides have to have a motive to reach an agreement. And you can't assume up front that either you or the other party isn't willing to give up something to get to that negotiation. That's what a negotiation is. You're coming to some agreement where you give a little, you take a little, but it's the least disagreeable result that you can reach. Both sides want to reach a conclusion without completely alienating the other side. Like I just said, you want to try to retain business relationships for your company, revenue and profit opportunities whenever you can. And the best result of any successful negotiation, again, is where both sides are somewhat satisfied, not necessarily completely satisfied, but somewhat satisfied with the results there. And, the resolution has to be not only satisfactory, but it has to be actively supported and accepted from all the parties concerned. You don't want the other side to walk away and agree to something, but they feel bad about it. They don't really agree with it. They were forced into a conclusion that they don't agree to. One of the primary motives in credit or any sort of business negotiation for that matter is you want to have an understanding of what it is that's going to resolve these differences in an amicable way. So you get the picture here that a negotiation isn't one-sided and it doesn't reach an outcome that is really a deal killer going forward with your other side of the negotiating table.